Movies, a form of entertainment most likely contained in about an hour and a half to 3 hours, where within that time frame a cohesive story is told involving a cast of characters, usually filled with relatable plot lines, heartfelt quotes, and emotional moments. Movies are a powerful form of entertainment that can bring together even the most sordid relationships, and I'm no stranger to enjoying a good movie. Hell, most of my free time is spent sitting in front of my TV watching some sort of movie, and when you have someone who enjoys a movie, they'll always be happy to give their opinion on it. And people giving their opinions on movies is nothing new. In fact, it's just as old as movies themselves. And when you think of someone giving their critical opinion of a movie, you think likely of Roger Ebert, a man whose name is synonymous with giving criticisms of films. But he's not the only person capable of reviewing a film, and that's where I come in. Because in this very video, I will be setting out to review 3 of my most favorite films of all time. A completely idiotic high school student with no sort of film background is going to review 3 movies and give his critical opinion on it. And thus, I have dubbed this video Roger Ebert must be rolling in his grave right now. And I know I've labeled these 3 films as my favorite of all time, but they're not the only type of movies I like. Thus, I have gathered together a few honorable mentions on other movies I like. And those movies are Wayne's World, Superbad, Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, House of a Thousand Corpses, Godzilla 1954, Austin Powers 1, 2, and 3, Little Miss Sunshine, The Batman, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, The Crow, Spawn, Clerks, Mallrats, and 21 Jump Street. And with that, we can get into the 3 films I'll be reviewing. A Clockwork Orange is a film that needs no introduction. Released in 1971 as an adaptation of the Anthony Burgess novel of the same name, the film takes place in England at the at-time futuristic year of 1980, starring Malcolm McDowell as young criminal Alex DeLarge, a completely twisted psychopath with a love of classical music that does basically anything you'd expect to be seen as detestable by modern society. The film opens up with Alex and his gang of droogs sitting at the Korova milk bar drinking milk that is assumed to be laced with something referred to as adrenochrome, to get them ready for something Alex refers to as a bit of the old ultra-violence. And it is after this scene that we see the gang assault a homeless man who appears to be singing under a bridge. The homeless man seems to put up no sort of fight, as he says he no longer wishes to live in a world where criminals like Alex get to run free every day. After this, in another scene of a fight with a rival gang, we see Alex and his droogs steal a car and drive up to the house of an author and his wife, acting as if they had just been in a terrible accident and asking to come inside the house to use the telephone. And once they gain access to the house, their true colors begin to show as they ravage the place and tie the author down and force him to watch as they rape his wife. It is after this that we see Alex return home for the night, where we get a scene that encapsulates his love for classical music, specifically that of Ludwig van Beethoven. One night after said ultraviolence, Alex is beaten and left for dead by his droogs, causing the police to show up. This kicks off the second act of the film. After being detained by the police, Alex is sent to an asylum type of place, where in the asylum they counteract his violent urges with torturous methods such as the Ludovico technique. This sort of treatment completely breaks Alex, causing him to act out of character. In the wake of this treatment, his urges to commit violent acts have been heavily repressed. Upon release from the asylum, Alex is dropped into a crazy world in which he is now the victim of other people. This role reversal completely breaks Alex, causing him to attempt suicide, in which the film ends with Alex in a hospital bed, seemingly back to his old ways. Now, what is it about Clockwork Orange that is so special? For me, I'd say it's the artistic merit of the film. The way in which shots are composed and how everything is portrayed just gives off this sort of energy. And Alex as a protagonist is one of the most delightfully twisted people I've ever seen portrayed in a movie. In fact, I'd go so far as to say he's a sort of classic rendition of some type of anti-hero. An antagonist who's put in the protagonist role. He has all the charismatic energy of a protagonist, whilst having the complete twist of an antagonist. There's also something to be said about the blunt nature of the film and how it really holds no punches when it comes to the horrible things Alex does. All in all, I love this movie, and I truly believe that nothing could ever be made like it. But that's also not to say that the film is completely perfect. Some scenes can drag on for too long, and some scenes just aren't necessary at all. But aside from that, I'd say that the film is actually really, really good. And with that being said, we can now move on to the second film I'll be reviewing.
It is all the more tragic in that they were young. But had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day. For them, an idyllic summer afternoon drive became a nightmare. The events of that day were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a horror film that was released in 1974, often looked at as the pioneer of the slasher horror genre, and looked at by me as my favorite horror movie of all time. Yeah, I'm a real horror fan, guys. Like, look at these horror DVDs I have. Yeah, this is part of my little collection. And then, if you'll kindly follow me into my shirt drawer. First shirt you see, Texas Chainsaw Massacre shirt. And then, what else do I have? Ignore that. Oh yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre poster above my bed. There's no doubt that I'm a fan of these movies. Hold on, you look at my backpack. I don't know why it's in here. I don't know why that's in the backpack. But, you see, Leatherface action figure. So I know what I'm talking about. I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre and any horror movie, but, yeah, specifically Texas Chainsaw is my favorite. Now, most people like to remember Texas Chainsaw Massacre as some sort of blood and guts fest, when in reality it's closer to something of an art house film than actual gore. The film usually chooses to play it safe when showing off the horrible methods of torture used by the Sawyer family. And because of that method, it causes the viewer to sort of fill in the gaps with their mind, which I believe is responsible for this sort of remembering it as a blood and guts fest. Either that or they watched the shitty 2003 remake. Along with that, the wonderful performances by the cast aid in showing just how crazy this family really is. The Sawyers are complete nut jobs, and I'd even put them up there with the Firefly family, aside from Leatherface. That, coupled with the amazing use of practical effects on such a low budget, helps with the charm of such a movie. And the movie really couldn't be what it was if it wasn't for the amazing touch of director Tobe Hooper. I could honestly go on for hours about how amazing this movie is. I feel like everybody has that certain horror movie that they really connect with. If I were to put my finger on it, I'd say it's the low-budget nature of the film, because I'm a stupid hipster who finds charm in the littlest things. I'd say I highly recommend this film. And with that, we can get to the final film I'll be reviewing. Shaun of the Dead is a British horror comedy film, based on the idea that Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright had on what they would do if they were in a zombie apocalypse. The film follows the duo of Shaun and Ed, two 29-year-old British men who are best friends and roommates. There's also Shaun's girlfriend and her roommates, but they're not that important, really. The plot of the film is basically just, what if a zombie apocalypse happened in England, where they don't have the stuff that America has, if you catch my drift. But the main focus of at least the first act is how oblivious the characters are to what is going on around them. Sort of seeming to be a social commentary of, we're already zombies, so I don't think an apocalypse would make that much of a difference. It also goes by the John Romero rule of not actually calling them zombies. But coupled with the zombie aspect of the film, it's also an amazing comedy film, specifically the parts with Shaun and Ed. The chemistry between these two characters is amazing, and you can really see that they were actually friends in real life. The way in which the dialogue bounces off from one person to another is really amazing. And that's not even to mention the dynamic editing that Edgar Wright uses when he makes his movies. And I'm gonna cut to the chase here and say that everything about this movie is completely perfect. Every single person I've shown this movie has completely loved it after the fact. Out of all the films I've reviewed in this video, I recommend this one the most. And with that, the video is over.